You know, there are so many shades to it, but right now we know where we are, pending the appeal that the incumbent governor, because we must still call him that, right? That's the way it is, pending when the determination of his appeal. Now, going back to that, BVAS did not fail us, did it? Because
absolutely not.
Because
absolutely
INEC has been working, and we've been looking at BVAS, the bimodal voters accreditation system. It didn't fail.
Absolutely not.
But there was human interference.
Absolutely.
Tell me about that, since you were there as an observer. Because what I'm getting at is the determination of the tribunal was that there was overvoting.
Yes.
And so that's what I wanted to say. You all were there. Everybody was there. So how can they be overvoting in your presence?
Well, the truth of the matter is that depending on those who were stationed at the polling station, you recollect that in Anambra State, in the Anambra State gubernatorial election, the BVAS malfunctioned, majorly. And for the Ekiti-Guba polls, the BVAS, there was a remarkable improvement in the, deployment of the BVAS and its effectiveness. And coming to Osun, the same thing occurred. I think we need to make one thing very clear to our viewers, is that the BVAS machine is not a CCTV camera that captures what happens within the vicinity of the polling station. What the BVAS does is that once you get there as a voter, you present your PVC, your permanent voter's card, to the presiding officer. It authenticates your PVC with the BVAS machine. What it does with the BVAS machine is like a mini iPad, or an Android. It uses it to capture your face, then your fingerprint. In a situation whereby the BVAS cannot capture your face and your fingerprint, you are told to step aside, that you cannot be allowed to vote. Your accreditation is unsuccessful. Until the BVAS accredits you as successful, that is when you can vote. Mm-hmm. But in this case, in Osun,
yes,
why we had overvoting was because those maybe, because I was personally in Ede South and Ede North. One of the polling stations where I monitored that and I left, I was not stationed permanently in a particular polling station. Where I monitored, I saw about 6 persons who have been taken out of the queue because they were elderly citizens, whom the BVAS could not recognize, could not accredit.
Okay.
And even as an observer, because of the huge turnout, we prevailed on some of them that, please, if the BVAS cannot authenticate you, you don't have a right to vote. A lot of them were insistent that, no, I must vote. So the judgment of the Osun State Governorship Election Tribunal is an affirmation of the rule of law. The law does not allow you to vote if the BVAS does not accredit you. Why there was overvoting is that the BVAS accredited 90 people, assuming, and we had 125 total vote cast, which means about 35 people voted outside
without
being validated by the BVAS machine. So it's either of two things. It's either the INEC officer compromised or he was intimidated, with violence to do that. And for me, why the Osun gubernatorial election result is...
That is, when you say either compromised or was intimidated by violence, having not been accredited by BVAS, he's supposed to step aside, fall out, but then proceeding further to the next stage without the due authentication, that is where it's...
Well, I want to refer you back to 2019 in the senatorial election in Imo State, where the INEC returning officer announced a result at the senatorial collation point. But when he got to the INEC office in Owerri, he announced another different result. And when he was questioned, he said he was forced to announce the first result at gunpoint, that was not the genuine result, that is now with the genuine result, that anybody that has any problem with the genuine result is announcing now can take it further. And that is to tell you that, like in every profession, safety first. It is only the man who is alive that will tell the stories. With the crowd that turned up at that election, it's either of two things, because, I saw, like I was in one of the polling stations I remember vividly well is whether Adeleke in Ede, and I was told that the governorship candidate voted in that particular polling station. And, we saw it, but I wasn't only the one, because we were about three who were doing the, mobile monitoring. So, and the people were insisting that they were going to vote. So you can imagine a situation whereby they have voted. Okay, for example, I'm sure you're also aware that in some polling stations, they voted until about 10 p.m. There was one that I was personally at.
And that was against the law?
No, it's not against the law.
Okay.
The law says that so long as you're on the queue.
Okay, however long it takes.
Even if it is till tomorrow morning. If
so far, you were on the queue.
On the queue before the close of the accreditation. So you had polling stations whereby military men, DSS, the REC for the local government, the EU, electoral officer for the local government, everybody had to come there because of the threat to law and order, because you need to see the crowd. Even as an INEC official, you'll be intimidated.
Okay, even if we're going with this, because right now we're splitting here. We have the broad outlines of the matter. Senator Adeleke has been determined to not have won that election. So that's the broad outline. But when you look at it, what so many people there. It wasn't just Adeleke that had that we're talking about overvoting about. The same thing with the former governor. The same thing. There was overvoting in both cases, even though Adeleke lost out because it seemed the incident seems to have been larger, greater, wider.
In his own
area.
The issue of overvoting occurred in both major candidates' strongholds. Mm-hmm. But you recognize that the Election Tribunal affirmed that overvoting took place in 744 polling units.
Yes.
And both the petitioners and the respondents both agreed that there was overvoting, which means they both admitted the fact that the law had been violated. And the Electoral Act is very, very clear that where there is overvoting in a particular polling station, the results of that polling station automatically becomes cancelled. And that was exactly what the tribunal did.
Now, this wasn't initially, it's like the lawyers of Oyetola sort of stumbled on this simply from the simple request. They didn't know. I don't think they had suspicions when they were asking for the
BVAS report.
No, yes, when they were asking for that.
Yeah.
And it is only when they got it, I imagine that they said, hang on, there's something here. This is not as expected. They didn't know. So if, it could easily have just flown under the radar.
Well, the truth of the matter is that democracy can only be sustained due to eternal vigilance.
Yeah.
And that was what played out. INEC has tried over the years to upscale the electoral process. Mm. And when I say upscale the electoral process, I mean INEC has tried to deploy technology. You recollect some years back where we had the e-card reader and there was the use of incident form. We had situations where people intentionally made sure that the electoral presiding officer and co, whether through complicity, never use the e-card reader so that they can perpetrate fraud. Mm. They'll just fill the incidence form. But in order to curb that electoral robbery at that level, the INEC now upgraded to the BVAS. What the BVAS is supposed to do now is to authenticate you and mark you as successful.
Based on your PVC.
Based on your PVC and your biodata. If the BVAS cannot authenticate you, automatically you cannot vote. And we have had situations whereby people that were unable to be authenticated in that way, the presiding officer had called the technicians, they came back, they changed the machine, and such person's authentication was repeated, and they became successful.
Okay, so there's no problem there.
Yes, but a situation whereby the machine is unable to authenticate you after several attempts, because the electoral officer the polling officer does not do it only once. He does it severally to ensure that your right is not, infringed upon your right to vote.
Yeah.
But a situation whereby if out of 100 people, 1 or 2 unable to vote due to no fault of the presiding officer but the machine. I think it is imperative on our part as law-abiding citizens to recognize that if I do anything outside of what the electoral, of what the law says, I'll be violating the law and I'll be undermining this process.
Is INEC investigating what exactly happened because they have to have some sort of an explanation. First of all, INEC came up with something called a synchronized BVAS report.
Well, the education and information INEC gave us about the BVAS was that it was real time. That the moment it's accrediting you, the accreditation is going to the server, to the INEC portal. So after you had given, it's like after you had marked a student script and the student started jubilating, or maybe the student was sad, and you now said, oh, come on, I didn't use my glasses to mark. So the question we should ask is your glasses part of the marking scheme?
There's some other parts of your answer that I didn't see there.
I didn't see clearly.
Yes, but
so it tells you clearly, like they say in law, coming back after you had issued a report on the process to say you have one that is synchronized, to me, stems of afterthought. And for me, one is disturbed. Like you have rightly said, we should demand explanations from INEC, because when this misdemeanor that we have identified that the court has made a verdict on, which is a law now, the result came from the polling stations, went to the ward level, to the local government level. What happened? How was it impossible for them to have identified this? Because the essence of the BVAS is that when the polling officer from each polling unit comes with a result, you cross-check the results with the BVAS accreditation. You recollect in those days when we were not using e-card reader and BVAS, where Mike Tyson was claimed to have voted in the Nigerian election,
yes,
Nelson Mandela,
yes.
President George Bush.
So it's clear that there are some people working against the system,
yes,
and this is what BVAS came to sort of check.
Yes, and they have also tried it again with BVAS, but thank God, they have been exposed. So it is now for us as Nigerians to add our voice, to call on INEC and the security agencies to fish out those who committed this heinous act. Because what they have done is to undermine the Nigerian democratic process. And we must call for their trial.
The other question we could ask is, what in your view would be the implication of this decision of the tribunal on the elections, 2023 elections coming up? This has happened now. Can you imagine if it had been the presidential or a governorship or anything like that? So what does this say about proceeding with the 2023 election? What will this have? Can you draw any lessons from this?
Well, the lessons I can draw from it is that there's need for INEC to go and do integrity tests on their personnel. Yes.
Okay.
On their personnel.
Okay.
The equipment that are being used, the equipment have come out as it is. It is the way you stand in front of a mirror, that you see yourself. The BVAS has accredited XY. You cannot come and write a report of XYZ that transpired.
Let me bring in Mr. George, who has called in. Good morning to you, Mr. George.
Good morning, Uncle Yori, and good morning to Mr. Ekujimi.
Yes.
Uncle Yori, the bone of contention of the election is BVAS. It is, everybody knows that all parties agree that there was overvoting. I had some of my people who were at Osun on that day of election. One person said at 10:40 p.m., they were still voting in Ede. So it's obvious that something went wrong, particularly in that Ede South and North area. But my main concern is the position of INEC. INEC says, I cannot understand the point of argument he's putting forward. It has been established that by BVAS that there was overvoting. And then you gave a report that this was the position of things in accordance with the BVAS during the election. You gave that report first. And you admitted there was an overvoting. So what is there's the law, the electoral law says wherever it is established that there is overvoting, the election in that area stands cancelled. So what is the basis of INEC declaring that result? On what basis? If they believed that there was overvoting,
indeed,
was it the BVAS report they used in declaring the result, or what did they use? That's why I was saying that you should please call Ekujimi to come and talk to us.
Exactly.
On what basis was that election result declared if there was evidence that there was overvoting? They have presented 3 versions of BVAS reports now. All the versions are contradictory to each other. I'm confused, though.
Thank you very much, Mr. George, for calling in. Indeed, these are, as you were saying, INEC needs to actually comment on this whole matter.
I think the Nigerian people should call on the INEC national leadership that we should put INEC, Osun State INEC, on trial. Because what they have done with regards to these conflicting reports is an indictment on INEC as an institution and all the resources, time, and energy that we have all invested, to ensure that our democratic process becomes better. What has happened in Osun that the election tribunal exposed, and through the BVAS, because people have told me that this is an indictment on you. I said, no. The BVAS machine records you. It's only when you are successful that the BVAS machine will accept you. If you are unsuccessful, it means you cannot go ahead and vote. So if somebody has bypassed a mechanism for authenticating the process, do you now blame the equipment that is on ground, that is functioning, for the person bypassing him? Then we need to ask questions from INEC Osun State that they have not lived up to their response, they have not lived up to their oaths. Because what this tells you clearly, like Mr. George said, what was the basis of announcing a result when you had discovered that there was overvoting, there was electoral malpractice? You went ahead and released and announced the results, clearly knowing, and now you wanted to use a synchronized report to validate fraud. It cannot stand.
Mr. Cash, if I got that right, is calling in from the UK. Good morning, Mr. Cash.
Yeah, good morning, Uncle Yori. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
I'm very
okay, Cash. Okay, with that Cash, maybe it's a different, maybe it's Kashimawo, because I was wondering.
Yeah, Uncle Cash, yeah. Thank you, Uncle Yori. And regarding the ongoing discussion,
yes,
judgment of Osun, and to be honest, is very, very biased. I mean, the judgment of the judges. Because when those governors, both previous one and the present one, I mean, it's being committed an offense. Because both of them, overvoting happened to both of them.
That's right.
I mean, they should follow the normal protocol in which both of them have to be cancelled because both of them were being offended. Why is it that I'm not a APC or PDP, but they should allow people to choose whom they want. It's not that the court should judge the way they are pronouncing the judgment. It's sort of partial, especially to this governor, the present governor, the current governor that is there now. I mean, they should allow the people. They should go back to the definition of the democracy.
Okay.
We should stop court. I mean, choosing people on people. You should allow the people to choose people on themselves.
I hear you. But when you say I don't know if it was the judgment that you were saying was unfair. I don't know how you meant, because there was an explanation of how they arrived at their decision. And what you already know that, in fact, we'll talk about that where there is overvoting, it should be cancelled. Now, we didn't hear of any cancellation of any election. So these are probably talking points. But I believe that their lordships had to deal with the facts in front of them. And as you know, it was a 2-1 decision. One guy saw it, one lordship saw it differently from his 2 brothers, but that nevertheless, we still have a majority. But thank you very much, Uncle Cash, for calling in.
I think we need to make a clarification. The 2 governorship candidates that we are talking about never committed any infraction. They were not caught multiple thumb printing.
No.
What we are saying is that in polling stations where election took place, based on the evidence before the courts, both the petitioner and the defendants, now it is, a case is between 2 persons. Both of them affirmed that, yes, we can confirm that there was overvoting in 744 polling units. And based on the law, what the law says, the judges acted according to law, that you cancel the results and then you do a recount of other places where
that area there, it's just, are you just to cancel, because what we saw was that they discounted the overvotes, the excess votes.
No, you cannot determine which is the excess vote. A polling station had...
No, they just went with what the BVAS did authentically.
No. Let me make the clarification.
Okay.
Yes, sir. The BVAS machine recorded 90 accredited voters. After election a result was announced, 125 total vote cast. What the law says is that where you have overvoting, even if it is by 1, because you cannot determine which one is the genuine or the one that came in excess.
Yes, so
you cancel the entire election for that polling unit.
But that's not what we had, or was it?
That was what happened. The tribunal now did a recount of other polling units of the other. The polling units were about 3,700 plus. They cancelled the election in 744 polling units.
Oh, those ones
now,
were outrightly cancelled.
Yes, they were outrightly cancelled.
And then
they did a tabulation
of the adjusted
figures.
Okay. Ada has called in from Jos. Good morning to you, ma'am.
Good morning. Good morning, Comrade Nelson. Ada calling from Jos Plateau State. Mr. Let me tell you something. There's nothing wrong with BVAS. I went back and gave it a second thought. It's a technology, it's a human being that operates it, you understand? It's a human interference. But my question here is that they all connive. They connive. Both incumbent and the man that was...
Yes, Adeleke and Oyetola.
Adeleke and Oyetola, both of them, they are people on ground. All of them, just as one has rigged the other, you understand? So, but the problem is that INEC staff has they should be blamed. I thought what of the agents? How come that overvoting happened? And then again, my question is this: sometimes we rationalize certain things. Just imagine now, I go there to get voted. My name is on that list, So I don't know the kind of technology they have. It did not recognize my face. It didn't recognize my fingerprint. It's nonsense as far as I'm concerned. It's fundamental human rights. I'm not impersonating. I'm the person. And then you still insist that I cannot vote. That is another problem. You understand?
Yeah.
So they should make sure they address that issue. It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't happen anywhere in advanced democracy. Why should it be in Africa and Nigeria for that matter? Somebody, a genuine person, wants to vote. You say you didn't something else. You start speaking grammar. What is my relation with the grammar? That is the problem. That is where it starts. So they should address that. Then again, I'm happy it even happened early enough. That's why. Remember that the prevention is all over the nation. So if they have problem with the BVAS, authenticating people, that is where the crime will start.
Yeah.
We don't have enough boots on the ground, though. So
all right.
Be careful. And it is ridiculous for the court to be always determining who will be the winner, just like the last caller said. It's wrong. It shouldn't happen. Let's not give up on Nigeria.
Thank you very much, Ada, for calling in from Jos. Exactly. But so as you were explaining, after cancelling the 744
the polling units where they were overvoting according to law,
what was
they did the tabulation,
the legitimate votes?
The legitimate
were the
votes
only
now,
ones that were considered,
yes,
that were counted.
Yes,
and tabulated.
Because in law it is the lawful votes Now, those ones that were cancelled became invalid votes.
Yes. Now, this brings up a question where I think we can take a stab at it a second time. Earlier in the week when we were looking at this, someone had called in, and it was from diaspora, and I said that, look, another aspect of this whole thing is that an enemy can go and intentionally, create an overvoting situation. Since, as we've said, technically, just one is all we need. Just one excess vote will invalidate that. So in order to do the opponent in, he said that people need to concentrate on that somebody could go and sabotage their opponent by, by voting there. Now, we had said at that time that no, that wasn't going to be possible, but I needed to bring it up again. And can you imagine that? Is it possible that somebody could sabotage the works like that?
Somebody could sabotage the works with the connivance of the INEC officer. Don't forget, when the BVAS machine accredits you and you get to the polling officer, before you are given the ballot paper, he authenticates the ballot paper. Don't forget. Even when we are counting results of when we are counting ballot papers, we check to make sure the ballot papers that we are counting are the ones that have been authenticated. He stamps and he signs. Because it is not impossible that somebody might have made a fake ballot paper and put it in his pocket. But within that vicinity, he cannot sign it and he cannot authenticate it with an INEC stamp. So what this tells us clearly is that INEC and every other stakeholder, we need to engage ourselves. I listened to the madam that called from Jos. For example, you go to an ATM machine and you want to withdraw money. Will you say because the machine rejects? Because I've been a victim where you put your ATM, you withdraw 10,000 naira. All of a sudden, it tells you want to withdraw another 10,000 naira. It tells you it cannot recognize your face again. You remove your ATM. You remove your ATM card, you put it in another machine. Maybe we have about 7 machines there. It tells you cannot recognize your face. Will I say, because I want money, I should break the machine and,
Okay. Although that example, with respect, teller machines don't check your face out.
No, they do.
Some of them.
No, all teller machines they have facial sensor.
No, but what I'm saying that there are people, why I thought that is that there are people who actually hand their card to their driver, to their boy, say, look, this is the password, go there and
there is a CCTV camera that, how do you think they get people that, defraud someone by stealing your ATM to go and...
It will record you, but it won't prevent you from,
No, if you are putting your card...
Yes.
There's a way, if the machine cannot record your face, it doesn't have to be the owner of the card. It must be able to identify who is coming.
Okay.
Who is putting the card.
Okay, so for record purposes. For record purposes. In case it is needed later on.
Yes, okay. If it cannot authenticate that face, it will deny you.
Okay, so I hear what you're saying now. So let's say somebody wanted to test it and was wearing a hood. So I'm going to test this thing.
Yes.
You are saying that
the machine will not pay you. Because that's why even during the time of COVID, you recognize that we used to remove our face mask.
Okay.